I just read recently that there are more television stations in Pakistan now than ever before. Are those getting to rural people?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And has that changed things? You know, if I remember right, there was, as in most sort of dictatorships, there's one monolithic, terrible television station.
There are many too. In fact, the television, there are a number of private channels within Pakistan as well, and they are not very cheap also at the time. It's easily accessible and affordable. Also, there are all the international cable channels that are available, and they can be seen. And they cannot be stopped. I mean, much that the government would want to control, and there is no stopping now. There are a number of private channels, and they are not under government control as such, and they can reach out to people in the far-flung villages everywhere.
And is there what we would call programming on those kinds of things? Is that
gender sense? Yeah. Not many that I watched. Although I was carrying, this was 10 years ago, I must admit, things would have changed a lot during those, because the media, this cable channels and internet, access to internet was not common at that time when I was in these villages, which is not the case now. At that point when I was carrying out my research, some women, so there were channels, at that time too there were cable channels, but some young women reported during my data collection that their fathers, there was a kind of policing of what they would be allowed to watch on the television. So
I can understand the utility of extending the notion of literacy into orality, and because of the way that it's not silence and suggests agency, resistance, subversion. I was curious whether when you were interviewing these women, if you found a tradition of storytelling, or if there were storytelling that may include stories of culture, stories from family that you tell got passed down, or maybe proverbs, or were there any forms that women used other than just conversations that would include these metaphors that you found of birds that might suggest some kind of
resistance? In the villages, there's a tradition of women getting together, and they read out they call it the miracle of Bibi Fatma. Bibi Fatma is the Prophet's daughter, and they associate some kind. This is a kind of stories associated with the parables from related to religion and their lives of the Prophet's daughter, and they gather together and they believe that if they hear and tell narrate these stories to each other, some of their problems would be solved. So they associate it with kind of remedies for their actual problems, and they get together some days with a very all of them have to be, everything has to be very clean, and it's a very kind of pious and holy gathering, and they just narrate those stories of Prophet's daughter. That is quite common. Also, if you asked me about the proverbs and folklore. Yeah, folklore is in the songs and the which are quite popular in the villages. I did not look at the songs as such, but then the songs also are, some of the songs, if I remember, in Saraiki language, particularly the songs and reinforce those. They reinforce patriarchal structures, more or less.
So they were probably pretty boring. That's what's wrong with the religious stories must have originated in a written form, or not?
They are written, yes. They are written. They read it when they they gather, and one of them would read, the others listen.
But the women who
in a ritual, this is a kind of ritual that believe that this would solve their problems. So this kind of ritualistic reading of those narratives, religious narratives.
But some of the women who couldn't read
they would listen.
But you don't know if they would retell. I mean, would they retell the story? I mean, were there stories that were never written, that were simply,
Those stories are these stories are in the folklore, in the folk songs like this. There is a mention of this this mention of the woman who drowned in the river, and these are kind of folk tales which when you hear these references in the songs or in the tales, these are tales that everyone narrates to each other. They're very common, the common knowledge. So that they are repeated. But I didn't see women hearing those, older women particularly, because they were so, as I said, what I found was they did not even get the time to read the newspapers. They were so preoccupied with their domestic chores most of the time.
So there wasn't really an occasion for literacy,
Well, as I said, I see literacy as a mix more than I think literacy is a kind of reflection literacy that they had, even though they did not have the skills of or the ability to read and the alphabet. What they were doing within these conversations and interviews, they were trying to make sense of their lives. The ability to be able to reflect on their lives and to make a sense of their existence, I think, that is what I'm trying. My research, I was trying to deconstruct the mainstream notion of literacy as alphabetic literacy.